Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a review for you of this little guy right here. This is the Nitecore TINI 2, or TINI, I don't know exactly how to say it, but anyway, it's this little guy right here. It's the TINI 2 from Nitecore. But first off, before we go any further, this guy was provided to me directly by Nitecore. They reached out to me, said, hey Nick, we got a new model, it's the TINI 2, we know you love the tip, do you want to check this out? I said, absolutely I do. Because Nitecore's been doing really interesting stuff lately in this sort of relatively smaller form factor. They've been doing like the tip, they've got the 10,000 lumens, as well as the 4K, which is this little guy right here. They've been doing a lot of cool stuff here, so I was definitely interested to check it out. Nonetheless, though, I told them I was going to talk about the good, the great, the bad, the ugly. It might be a gem, might be junk. They did still send it along. We have to assume, though, this is the very best quality controlled one of these guys ever, and I'm doing my best not to let that affect the nature or quality of my review. Next thing, let's do some size comparison. This is a relatively small light. I'm going to put this here right next to a good old-fashioned AA battery. What we see here, this is not particularly big. I'm going to put this guy next to an 18650 battery. This guy remains not particularly big. I'm going to put this up next to its some of its competitors from Nitecore, and that is the Tip SE, which feels very, very large next to this guy. The Neutron 2C, which is a much bigger light, as well as against the T4K, which is another one of the ones in that lineup. And again, this feels much smaller. I can do a kind of a vertical comparison. This guy is about the width of a USB-C port, which kind of makes sense, right? So anyways, there's that. Then, finally, this guy is, finally, no, I'm about to go to the good, the great, look, it's been a long day, okay? Anyways, finally, we're going to go ahead and jump into the good, the great, the bad, and the ugly of this very interesting flashlight. Okay, so to start with, on the good side, pulling it together, people, this guy has a very nice interface to it. The interface is very simple, but it does what it needs to do. You press this bottom button here, and it turns on the power of the light, and then when you press this top button, it changes the changes the brightness. So we go from level 1, 2, 3, all the way up to 4. And if you hold this top button down, it goes into turbo mode, which gives you an extra, basically, it goes up to 500 lumens for you. And it's worth noting that you can just hold down that top button and get straight to turbo if you wanted to. That is definitely an option for you. So, you know what? I find that to be pretty good. The other big thing that this has going for it is a lockout mode. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to hold down the power button while the light is running, and that locks me out. What that means is that if I hit this button, the light doesn't turn on. If I hold down the top button, I can still get the turbo mode, but if I just hit the button, it doesn't work. And by the way, there is and then to turn it back off, you just double click and then hold it. There is a way to lock it out so that turbo mode doesn't come on altogether. If I hold this down a little longer, we go to lockout 2. And now even if I hold down this top part, nothing's turning on until I do the double click and hold, and there we go. But that is important. That is crucial, and that is something that has been very much missing from the Tip SE. So that interface is actually quite nice, all things considered. Next thing, it does have this display on there. The nice thing about the display, especially on a little guy like this, is it gives you a really good sense of what kind of run times you should be expecting from this guy. Right now, if I keep running at 1 lumen, which is the current level, I've got about 60 hours remaining for me. If I move it up to 15 lumens, it tells me I've got about 8 hours, a little less than 8 hours. If I go to 65 lumens, I've only got 2.5 hours or so at the moment. And then if I go to 200 lumens, I'm at about 45 minutes. And this guy is freshly charged, so those are really pretty much the numbers. And I can only do the 500 lumen turbo mode for about 15 minutes, and even still, it's going to be, you're going to have to hold it down there, right? You have to keep this held down in order to stay in turbo, and frankly, it does heat right up. So that is definitely a thing. But that display is actually very nice, and it also can tell me, if I just kind of click this at a glance, it shows me what my battery charge is, which is nice, and that way I don't have to think about, oh, am I charging? Am I not charging? Whatever. It is good. I appreciate that very much. And so that's nice. Next thing, this guy has a pretty reasonable beam pattern here. It's kind of hard to show off on camera. There is definitely a distinct spot to it, but it does have a fair amount of spill around it. And I think for everyday carry, they've kind of really dialed this in well. Navigating a dark room with this works quite well. There's no trouble there, and that's pretty excellent. Next thing, this has a USB charging port on the side of it. It is using USB-C, which is very much the future, and more importantly, it's using USB-C in a way that is very compatible. What I mean by that is this is a USB-C power delivery thing, like you might have on a laptop, and it is, well, currently charging, right? And in fact, this one here is just hooked up to a dumb phone charger, and I'm going to plug that in, and you know what? As soon as I get it in there, it's charging from that too. This is happy to speak all varieties of USB-C charging, and I appreciate that. That's been something that a lot of lights have been struggling with, and I appreciate them taking the time to do it right. Then finally, on the good side, this has very, very strong output, right? And you've got those 4 different levels. You've got the 1 lumen for about 60 hours, 15 lumens for 8 hours, 65 for 2.5. And by the way, you can already see that by running for turbo, just for the little bit I've done here, we're losing some real time on the basis of this. But anyways, 200 lumens at 45 minutes. And you know what? It really feels like it's matching the Tip SE in terms of output, just in a smaller form factor. This light and this light don't feel that different in terms of performance, in terms of lighting things up for the moment. Where this guy wins is just in terms of staying power and to an extent ergonomics. It's a little hard to hold something this small for a longer period of time, but nonetheless, this is a very, very small light, but it still packs a major punch. And so to me, that's what's good here, is it's got strong output, USB charging, a reasonable beam pattern. That display is nice, and it does have a nice little interface on there. On the great side to me, this thing is ridiculously dense in terms of light. I appreciate that so very much. Do you all remember that maybe this might be an okay boomer moment for a lot of the folks watching this, but at the same time, for a long time, there was this little class of single LED flashlights that had like one LED on there, and it had like a watch battery or a stack of watch batteries, and they put out just enough light to get a key into a lock or something like that. That was about it. This is a very plausible keychain light. This is seriously not particularly large. This is freaking tiny. If I put this up against my token size comparison, this is smaller than half of your pocket knife, right? This is a very small light, yet at the same time, this is a real light. This is a serious business flashlight. This will do all of the flashlighting you need for a short period of time. It doesn't last that long, but it puts out absolutely dumb amounts of light, right? 200 lumens for 45 minutes is get you home sort of light. That is, navigate a dark alley. I wouldn't recommend it, by the way, but navigate a dark alley perfectly happily sort of light, right? This is a really impressive light. In that way, this sort of is one of those things where it's like, wow, how are we able to do this? And so I appreciate very, very much just the sheer amount of lumen generation they have packed into this tiny little form factor. And so to me, what's great about this is just the density. The fact that I can get 500 lumens reliably for a non-trivial amount of time out of a tiny little keychain light, and this is plausible on a keychain. Yeah, that's great. This is really great in that way. And so to me, that is the great. On the bad side, only a couple of little things here. I mean, the price on this guy is, at some level, it's pretty good, right? It's a really nice performing product, but it's also $40 for a keychain light, which is not nothing, right? This is not the kind of price where you buy one for all of your family members. It's not that, right? But it is very serious, so you know what? Okay, as an enthusiast product, I can get behind it. And frankly, it's not so out of line that you wouldn't do one as a gift. The price is okay, right? On the next thing, it has a non-replaceable battery. I haven't taken it apart or anything like that, but the best of my knowledge, battery is soldered in there, and even if it isn't, I don't know what that kind of size it would be. Look, anytime you have a non-replaceable battery in a piece of gear, that is an expiration date. That is basically obsolescence. Whether it's planned that way or not, whether it's just the nature of the beast, whether they needed to have it, I get it, but that's one of the major disadvantages relative to a light that takes an off-the-shelf sort of battery, right? This guy is, well, it's going to last it's very impressive until it's no longer impressive, until the light shuts off and stops working. That's not great. I don't love non-replaceable batteries and things. And then finally, on the bad side, this is a very short-term sort of amount of light. This is an, oh, damn, I need a light right now sort of light, rather than, okay, heading off into the wilderness sort of light. This is a light for the days that you don't know that you're going to need a flashlight, rather than something where you would plan to carry this guy. If I were planning to be out and about and dealing with the world, so to speak, I would almost certainly grab something a little bit bigger. I would grab something that with maybe replaceable batteries or something like that. There are a lot of really nice options out there for flashlights. This guy is, this is much more of a backup sort of thing. But it is small enough that it works well for it, so it's not a huge deal. But anyways, to me, all of that is the bad, is that this just doesn't have that much in the way of runtime. It has a non-replaceable battery, and the price is okay. Not amazing, but pretty damn good, given the product here. Final conclusion, though, is that I am really impressed with this guy. This is super impressive, because it's got a really nice interface. It's got a nice display. It's got easy charging, impressive output, and a very small little form factor. Yeah, the price is definitely higher than most of your little keychain lights. The battery is not replaceable, and the runtimes are really meant for emergency rather than all night long, but still, at some level, my biggest feeling with this is just like, wow. This is like 95% of the TIP SE in terms of performance and what like that. In terms of, moment-to-moment performance, this will win in terms of lasting. But it's amazing. It produces light like one of your full-size tube light sorts of things, but in something that could actually live on a keychain. This is one of the more impressive pieces of gear, just purely in terms of like, holy crap, we as a species can do this? The lights to ever cross my table. I've had lots of compact lights, but I've never had one that's quite as like, whoa, as this guy is. This is very, very easy to recommend and very easy to call a gem, right? This is a light that I think you could very easily give to somebody who doesn't love lights. You give this to a family member who walks home late at night a lot, and this will work perfectly well, and they'll be able to look down and see, oh, I need to charge the battery because there's an indicator there. It'll give them more than enough light and it's easy to use. This is really, really, really nice. And it's honestly, even if you're a light geek, it's a very nice way to make sure you've always got a light on you. Even if you're just at the office or something like that, this is more than enough to look down behind a set of server racks or something like that, right? This is a really, really impressive little piece. And so honestly, my final conclusion is this is great. This is a gem. And this is, the TIP SE really blew me away, but this is just like, wow. How did they get that in there? If the runtimes weren't so different, there would be no reason to ever choose the TIP SE. And honestly, I think for most people, this is going to be the sweetest spot. I really feel like, although the TIP SE is great and it gives you that more additional runtime, the extra features here and the reduction in size make a lot of sense. This is a really good light for just having with you randomly. Whereas if I knew something, or I knew I needed runtime, I would probably grab something a little bit bigger. This is really good. And so I like this. And in fact, I'm probably going to pick up a couple more of these. Probably one for the wife. Who knows what. But this is a really nice light. And it is a great reminder that big things really can come in tiny packages. Okay, anyways, there you go. Hope this has been interesting to you. Have yourselves an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.